Hey guys, welcome back to World of Warships. Today we're taking a look at the buffed Yueyang Legendary mod, a mod that I have never played with before. As a reminder, Yueyang is a pretty good torp boat. These torpedoes are kind of ridiculous. You get 4 seconds of reaction time. Deepwater torps, the way they work is they have incredible concealment, but they can't hit destroyers. Massive damage into battleships and cruisers, as well as aircraft carriers if you get that opportunity. Torpedo reload booster means that it's an absolute menace as a torp boat. So what does the Legendary mod do? If you're unfamiliar with it, it's more of a gunboat mod. Yes, it turns Yuyang back into the old style where it was more of a gunboat, just a gearing with different torpedoes is what this ship was initially released as. They nerfed it down, they nerfed the gun DPM down, and then gave it this torpedo reload booster to make it more of a torp boat. So in exchange for your 5th upgrade slot, pretty scary, you do lose out on concealment mod. You gain 18% better main gun reload. Yeah, that's how badly they nerfed this thing. You can give it 18% better DPM with this legendary mod, and it's still a little worse DPM than even gearing. Crucially, this legendary mod also gives us 20% better duration on our radar and our smoke. So if we go radar Yuyang, yes, that is a 35-second radar on a destroyer. And this is about 10 seconds more duration than you would get without the legendary mod, just running a normal conceal build with radar Yuyang. And you're going to notice here that that last 10 seconds of our radar makes a big difference in this example. This Sherman here is on about 10,000 HP when we tick down to 10 seconds left on this radar. And that last 10 seconds means our buddies get a few last salvos in and he goes down. Perhaps the legendary mod made the difference between a low health Sherman, which can then adrenaline rush farm down our team, and a completely sunk Sherman. I think that's pretty cool. We also need to contend with radars, other radars in the game. That was one of them already. This is a big issue for destroyers. It's difficult to play the game when you have to contend with 12-kilometer stealth radars on a new ship like Pioneer, for example. Even the old radars, like 10 kilometers on a Des Moines, for example. Or Minotaur if they want run radar, Brisbane radars, of course the Soviet radars too. Here's radar number 2 for this game, by the way. It's tricky. And in these situations, is concealment mod really doing anything for us? I don't think so. We're just constantly... That's third one. We're constantly spotted by radars, man. I'm sure you've experienced this as a destroyer. It's very difficult. So what if we just had more HP? Yes, this is the buff to the legendary mod this time around. You get 10% more HP on your ship. And that's a big deal. That's almost 5,000 more HP on the Yuyang as I've built it here. And towards the end of this... That's another radar. So many... I'm playing risky. Okay, I am trying to play up towards here. I'm trying to win this game, actually. It's a close match. Love to see it. But it's hard to play caps when these radars are constantly around you. Having that extra 5k HP meant that maybe I barely live this battle on like 1,000 or 500 HP. Or, since I have legendary... Another radar. This time Des Moines. We live on 5,488 HP. That's pretty interesting, okay? Sure, 6.5 kilometer detect is difficult to run on any torp boat. But if we run radar mod Yuyang, suddenly that concealment disadvantage doesn't really matter. And yes, that is an E on like 44,000 damage. That's very low damage output. But we did all the little things. We spotted, we contested caps. All of that actually does matter for base XP. So an E on a very different kind of battle. Here, we're going to do a ton of damage and have one of my best games ever in a Yuyang. Yes, still running radar Yuyang. I typically don't run this unless I'm in a div. In a div, radar Yuyang is great. But oftentimes, well, it relies on teammates supporting you in some of these engagements. Daring is still going to out DPM us. I will say this 18% better DPM from Legendary mod still makes us have less than 200,000 HE DPM base. So Yuyang normally gets only 162,000 HE DPM. Something like the Gearing gets 216,000. This legendary mod buff, not counting any of the other reload mods, because that's what all the destroyers could be taking, just this legendary mod brings us up to like 195,000 HE DPM. So still lower. Yeah, we get the radar. Yeah, we're going to get the jump on these enemy destroyers. but they're still going to out DPM us. Certainly a Daring will be thing. Other scary ships like a Smolensk, a Marceau, Gdansk, Sherman obviously up there as well. It's a little tricky of, can you take these engagements on your own with a radar Yueyang? You got to be very careful. If you're running a div, different story. But I'm playing solo here. I tend to favor smoke Yueyang generally, especially if I'm running a more of a Torp build, for example. It'd be really nice to be able to start farming down this Schlieffen or this Montana, for example. You can't really start farming as an open water gunboat inside secondary range of a Schlieffen or a Libertad. There's a lot of, I mean, the Prince Adalbert as well. There's a lot of examples, Napoli. There's a lot of examples of secondary ships these days where there's just this aura of damage incoming if you start opening up open water like we are doing here. If we had smoke, maybe we could think about farming. I really like the smoke Yueyang, but I had a good time with the radar, especially with this legendary mod negating that downside of concealment. It is truly a massive downside to give up concealment mod here. Going from 5.8 kilometers of concealment down to 6.5 hurts a lot, and this radar does help make up for that. The other thing we're doing now that we're not running smoke is that we get to play more of a spotting role. There's no opportunity for you to troll your teammates and yourself by spotting enemy ships that are pushing in, smoke up to farm them, and then you realize you're the only one spotting them. Yes, I've done that before too. It's embarrassing, but it happens, and there's no opportunity to do that here. We also still can just sit behind islands and farm down some of the ships that are pushing in. That's always been an option as well. So you can get creative with the positioning, and the radar brings other big advantages that the smoke doesn't. We run a more Torp-focused build, the radar can still be quite valuable. And this legendary mod, I was surprised how much I enjoyed. I do think this recent buff to it, an extra 10% ship HP, is contributing there. Because as a destroyer, you die very quickly these days. All those radars we talked about earlier, but not only that, there's ships like Hawaii in the game now. There's so many ships with much higher DPM, much better shell arcs that are more able to take you out very early on in the battle, even at long range. It's hard to play DDs these days. So having an extra 10% HP for a bit of a riskier playstyle, like the radar legendary mod Yueyang certainly is, I think is really nice. I think this is a very nice buff. I'm not sure if I would run it all the time, because again, Torp boat Yueyang is absolutely incredible. You're not always going to get the best value out of the Torps, of course, but man, these torpedoes are really fun to use. We still have reload booster, and the Torps are still fine when running mostly a gun build. But for the most part, I do think that is the real strength of Yueyang, less about the guns. However, it is difficult to make use of your torpedoes when you're fighting against a Daring, for example, on a flank, and he's locking you out from getting close enough to even use the Torps on the Hindenburg and the Montana that was here and the Hawaii that was here. So having the gun power and this radar to, when the Daring smokes up, you radar him out and you're able to finish him off, that's pretty powerful. Now we have free reign here as a DD to actually make use of those Torps. Maybe I'm convincing myself that I should be running this more often. I should put more consideration into making use of this upgrade to our gun power. I think it's very good. I think this is a solid upgrade to this legendary mod that feels awkward. A lot of these destroyer legendary mods feel awkward when you lose concealment. That's your bread and butter. That is so much of your battle impact. It's so much of your survivability. It feels bad to do that. But if you're able to play around it here using the radar to mostly negate the downside, but also just playing a little bit more passive, playing a little bit safer so you're not full sending in and getting outspotted and dying very early, you can mitigate the downside, and the upside here is quite substantial. The team play element, certainly the 20% extra action time on your radar or your smoke. I don't think the smoke has much impact. I think this really is focused on the radar duration, and that 18% better DPM alongside 10% more HP. It feels pretty good. Whether that's worth the trade-off for concealment for you, I don't know. For me, it's up in the air. I could take it or leave it, which is a little tricky when the legendary mods cost research points. You might be going for ships or other legendary mods that I would say are just straight up buffs over the regular ship. Looking at you, Colombo. There's other examples too, but Colombo is the obvious one to point to. Now, we're getting into the late game here. The enemy team is in the lead of this arms race battle, so we need to make a bit of a comeback. And Yuyang Torps dumped into a cluster of enemy ships. I mean, it's pretty incredible how good these torpedoes are. So many other torp boats, like Shimakaze, for example, their torps are spotted from the moon, man. Yuyang torps being spotted essentially as they hit your ship is what it feels like, is such a massive advantage. Yeah, the DPM may not be as good. The range can be a little worse than something like a gearing torpedo. But man, it's so nice to not have to worry about people dodging your torpedoes on spotting. You catch them in a turn like this Mecklenburg, and they really can't do a whole lot about it. They're really, really powerful torpedoes and very useful in these sorts of situations. Now, we only do have that one radar left. We got one more torpedo reload booster consumable back thanks to the special commander in the Pan-Asian tree. So that's really, really helpful on a ship like this one where we can run out of those pretty quickly when Yuyang is trying to spam torps into these choke points. Now, we've mostly dealt with the flank in this one, and notably, we're the best concealed destroyer left in this game. We got a Kaba, who's a great gunboat. We got a Schlieffen, Yamato, Guden, strong ships, but they're about to get the cap here. We just can't let that happen. The points tick so fast in arms race, so we're going to use our last reload booster, dump the torps into a common choke point. There's a Colombo, there's a Hawaii. We're getting close to within Hawaii radar range, and we find the enemy sub. Hopefully our team can help. I mean, we have a decent amount of support here, and it looks like they're coming through. So we'll take the Kraken. Bit of a yoink at the end, but we did take the initiative to spot him. The Hawaii, can he take us down? Though he's got massive DPM. He didn't spot the torpedoes. That's a double strike. And now we're spotting the Hindenburg. The extra HP, because we're still spotted in front of some of these high DPM ships, or at least we were before Hawaii went down. It's nice to have more HP to survive some of these situations. Sometimes you do just have to trade. You got to face tank a little bit in a DD. Sometimes it's do or die in these late game scenarios when it is so close, which I love. I love games like this. I was so engaged in this match. I was having an absolute blast playing this ship. And Yuyang did not disappoint. Even Legendary mod, even Radar mod, things that I do not usually play this ship for. And it was an advantage. I felt like I was able to do more because of the Legendary mod and because of the radar. This game worked out that way. Other games, I'm going to wish I was a torp boat. But did you notice in that earlier example? Well, I only used clips of the torps being so powerful. That was a full gun build. That was even more of a gun build than I was running here. I was actually running even Fearless Brawler in that one. I swapped the build around to be a little bit more reasonable than that, and I think it worked a lot better. But this ship, just in its base form, is an incredible torpo. You don't even need to build for it when you get those opportunities. They're not going to come up that often in a game, and you always have your torpedo reload booster to take advantage of them, is at least how I feel with Yuyang. So I really actually enjoyed this build, and maybe as I'm recording this video, talking through my thought process and how much fun I had here, maybe I'm a radar legendary mod believer in Yuyang here. I thought this was great. Really fun experience. We don't quite have the radars available right now. I suppose I used too many of them trying to deal with the submarines. As always, as a DD, it's very difficult to deal with subs, but radars can sometimes help you spot them on surface. I'm glad we were able to help take the sub out earlier, so it's fine that the gearing is going to get away here. We're forcing him out of the cap. Just the Colombo gearing left, so we should be able to clean this one up. We'll send the torps out for that Colombo, and we'll give chase, because of course we do have Kaba backing us up. Yes, gearing does outgun us, but Yuyang is a smaller ship than gearing is, and that is crucial for your survivability. We also just get more HP than him, although arms race here, a little bit of difference there, but thanks to Legendary mod, we do actually get more HP now, which is a massive benefit. And going bow in there, oftentimes when you give broadside on in a DD, you take so much more damage. And I really enjoy with these DDs that have two guns up front, staying mostly bow in and just kind of wiggling back and forth between 5 and 10 degrees broadside, going left and right that way, and drifting around a lot of the incoming fire. You can mitigate so much damage that way. We do pick up the Colombo as well for probably my best Yuyang game, or at least one of the best. 2 E's in this one, one focused more on damage, another focused more on utility play and spotting, which I did cut up a little bit more because it's a little bit slow in those passive games where you do have to focus on spotting and cap contesting, but pretty awesome results out of Yuyang. I had a really, really good time here. Though I wouldn't say this is a mandatory legendary mod that you need to pick up, but if you enjoy your Yuyang, especially radar mod Yuyang, I do think the legendary mod is a big help for that playstyle. Yeah, the downside of concealment hurts, But when you have radar, that matters quite a lot less than getting much more HP, much more duration on that radar, as we saw can matter. And of course, the 18% better DPM. Here's the build that I was running on it. Yes, radar mod plus the legendary mod is what we were doing here to get ourselves this 36-second action time. Pretty incredible there. The engine boost is nice for dodging when you deal with some of the spotting you're going to take when you don't have a smoke screen to get away. It's only 8%, but it is a nice help. Wanted to go mostly gun build here, but the torpedo reload booster is really what carries the torp power of this ship, just in its base form. You don't necessarily have to build it for full torps, although you could. And that would be a completely viable way to build this as well, is go radar mod, legendary mod, and just full torp build it. And if you run into trouble where you're getting outspotted suddenly, you just pop your radar. And with that, you still get the benefit of the more HP and the duration on your radar too. The reload here gets us down to 2.7 seconds. We get 236,000 HE DPM with this mod. You know, that's not so bad. We do have this build on our commander here. Bit of a hybrid build, right? Still going for guns, but definitely wanting some torpedoes. I found this to be quite useful. We missed out on things like Superintendent. Notice no Fearless Brawler here. I had actually given up these two for Fearless Brawler. That's what I mean by being a little more sensible, I think, than needing something like Fearless Brawler. But if you want to go full guns, you could do that here and give up some more of those torps. It's still a strong torp ship. And again, those first clips of this video was without anything buffing the torpedoes at all on this ship. And we still had a monster game with the torpedoes. It's a very strong ship. Interesting legendary mod. Maybe tricky to use, but I do think the alternate playstyle here is quite interesting. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.